What's up, everybody? It's Gary V, and you just heard.
Welcome into another episode of You Heard, where we feature athletes, celebrities, and entrepreneurs speaking about their NFL fandom. In the latest episode, we have Jets fan and serial entrepreneur, chairman of VaynerX and CEO of VaynerMedia, Gary Vaynerchuk, joining us. Gary, thanks so much for taking the time to discuss this big Bills and Jets game coming up. We're going to start with the Jets. When did you become a Jets fan?
August 1982. And the Jets went to the AFC Championship game in 82, Maddy, and I thought I was a genius and I had it figured out. And unfortunately, we have not gone to a single Super Bowl in my lifetime. I've watched every single snap in real time, no DVR, no radio. I've watched them physically on TV or in person, including the devastating 2015 loss at Buffalo. I was there. I went to every single game that year in 2015, all 16. And so you're talking to a real diehard.
Okay, real diehard. There's a lot of those in the NFL. And when your team goes through years where it's tough to find wins, it's tough to get into the playoffs, do you ever consider, you know what, maybe I'm going to take a break for this season? Or are you like, true, we're in this for the long haul, doesn't matter?
Both. I mean, I just landed from London, Maddy. That's how, I was at the London game. Like, I promise you, when Aaron threw his third pick at the end of the game, less than 24 hours ago, there's part of me that, when you're in that disgust and you're on tilt and you're devastated, I'm like, do I really need this? But it lasts for a nanosecond because you're a diehard. And then, unfortunately for your fan base, a couple hours later, when that almost 60-yard field goal goes through for the Texans, then, and this is going to make so much sense for all the Bills Nation, like, you're back, right? Like, the fact this morning, like, I just said to my admins who were pulling me out of a meeting because I wanted to jump here, and I'm sorry, a minute or two late.
That's okay.
They're like, man, you're in a little bit of a better mood than we expected. And I said, because we're playing for first place on Monday night.
Oh, man. First place on Monday night. I know it's early in the season, week 6. It's a long NFL season. Everybody says it. But when you start to face opponents in your division, it matters. It doesn't matter if it's week 1. It doesn't matter if it's week 6. So, two teams in the Bills and the Jets who have had back-to-back losses. That means this game is pretty meaningful for these teams getting back on the right foot, and also when you look at the division at large. What are your thoughts about this matchup right now as we sit here?
Yeah, I think it's two desperate teams for this win because, look, I think this, and you guys got off to such a great start, and all the narrative is Josh didn't need Diggs and this, that, and the other thing, and then obviously the last 2 weeks have been challenging. The Bills come into New York and lose again, which obviously they were frustrated to lose the opener last year, especially because we lost our quarterback 4 plays in. I think that's going to be a challenge. I think for both franchises, I don't have to tell you, the New York media is just impossible. And so it's already a storm here, but we lose on right now. I think everyone's between hoping and praying for Davante Adams, between the fact that this game is now meaningful from a first place because the division's not playing well. Obviously the Patriots are in real trouble, and Miami, unfortunately, it's even though you hate all the as much as I hate the Bills, I always get mad when Milano gets hurt or things that you don't want injuries, you don't want bad things, and Tua's is especially challenging. But
Right.
I think whoever loses this week is going to have a very challenging Tuesday, like a very challenging Tuesday. I think it starts to get a little bit uncomfortable. Obviously for the Jets, if they lose, now they're 2 full games behind, and it gets really challenging. For the Bills, we'll still have the same record in that scenario, even though the tiebreaker goes to the Jets. There's still more time, and you're on the road here. So I actually think a Jets loss is more devastating for the Jets than a Bills loss. You still have the Jets at home later in the year. We're tied. For the Jets, it becomes a really challenge, 2 games back and a Buffalo game in the future. So I think the stakes are a little higher for the Jets, especially because of the New York media. But I follow a lot. I have a lot of followers on social media, and a lot of them are great Bills fans. And, I can sense the tension growing a little bit up there for y'all.
Yeah, I think this fan base is hungry for a win. It doesn't happen often where this team has back-to-back losses. There's a lot of expectations on the Bills with a quarterback like Josh Allen. Since you've been a Jets fan for so long and you've been to games all over the country, all over the world, and also games in Buffalo, this Bills team has been a team that's won the AFC East the last several seasons in a row. When you watch the Bills, whether it's against the Jets or other teams, what comes to mind when you think about the way that this franchise has been put together over the last few seasons?
Well, I think you're incredibly well coached, which is devastating. I think you nailed it at the quarterback slot, which is double devastating because I don't have to remind anybody here we took a quarterback before you all did in that draft. I think the defense has been really, honestly, one of the things that's fascinating is you've also been able to overcome injuries. Again, Milano, the corner, I think Oliver's banged up right
Yep,
now.
he is. Yep.
The even though you don't root for injuries, you pay attention to them when against your interdivision rivals, and so you've been able to get through a lot of adversity. Look, this Bills team is playing in the era of a Kansas City Chiefs dynasty, right? That I don't have to tell anybody who's listening how insane that one game was a couple years ago. And so, look, Diggs, not only did you lose Diggs, the receiving core is not up to the snuff that you've been historically because, Gabriel's not there as well. And like, there's a lot to overcome here. I'm a big Dalton Kincaid fan. I was devastated when you drafted him. I thought he'd have a very good career. He's been quietish, right?
He's been quiet to start the season. That's right.
The running game has been better than I expected for y'all a little bit early on. Look, what do I think? I think the GM, the head coach, and the quarterback, when you have that trifecta right, you have success. And there's been no confusion to me in my envy and dismay of why you've been so successful the last 5 years.
We've got a player named Damar Hamlin, who I think a lot of people are fans of, regardless of which team that you cheer for. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the Jets. I know you can appreciate his comeback story and just how much he's meant to the game of football over the last 2 seasons. He has a question for you, so I'm going to put my phone up and I'll play it for you.
What's up, Gary V? It's your boy, Damar Hamlin. Feel like I haven't seen you in a while. For those who don't know, Gary is my boy, man. I appreciate our relationship. I appreciate all the advice that you've given me over our time that we've been able to get to know each other. Feel like I haven't seen you in a while. I feel like every time I'm in New York City, I run into you. My question would be, what advice would you give someone trying to build their brand in a market where it feels like everyone is doing the same thing? How do you separate yourself?
It's a great question.
It's a great question, and it's so fun to be able to answer with somebody who executed long before that really tragic, challenging night that, thank God, turned into a blessing and an inspiration for so many. This player that I'm sure this fan base adores, because you're right, every fan base adores him, given that adversity and that miracle. He put in the work. It's so fun for me to see everybody battling it out on social media for attention, because it feels like sports. As every athlete and many of us around the sport know, most of us grow up wishing we could play the sport, and then we get involved in it one way or another, right?
Right.
And so my answer is you have to be better. It's about reps. There's nobody, in the great words of Allen Iverson, practice. There's nobody that practices more on social media, meaning the amount of hours I put into the content I put out, looking at the analytics of how it did, reading all the comments, paying attention to what's happening in pop culture, what's happening on the platforms. So to use football terms for everybody listening, it's a lot of film work. It's a lot of practice Tuesday through Friday. And then just like these boys that we love so much, it's about executing. And so standing out is about being self-aware. Another thing that happens in the NFL is I think some players, this is actually pretty nuanced. I think a lot of players get caught trying to do something they're not capable of. Right?
Yeah.
They get out of position. I can tell you right now, I think the Jets defensive line in week 1, because I'm a real football nerd, I thought they tried to play hero ball and didn't just stay in their lanes, and we got slashed for a lot of yards. I think in social, you got to stay in your lane. You have to be self-aware. Like, if you're not the funniest, trying to make, humor skits is a dangerous model.
Well, before we let you go, one last question for you. You've done so much throughout your career. You're the co-founder of Resi, Empathy Wines, Vayner Sports, chairman of VaynerX, CEO of VaynerMedia at large. What's next for you? What do you have going on right now?
The truth is, back to another sport I love, mixed martial arts. I'm a counterpuncher. I'm more waiting to see what comes at me. I didn't know that I was going to own a pickleball team 4 years ago, but when the opportunity came, I jumped at it. I didn't know that I was going to invest in Facebook and Twitter and all these things when I was running a wine store. But when I saw the opportunity, so back to my prior answer, I like to watch. It's actually why I love the NFL. I think that most people, when they first see the sport, they don't understand it, right?
Yep.
It's a complicated sport. You know very well being around it. A lot of people's first endeavors are kind of okay, but then once it clicks and you understand, like for example, Maddie, just to get nerdy, because I know this is a football platform, I spent 30 minutes this morning watching all the missed blocks my Jets tight ends
Oh
had
my gosh.
in Minnesota. To me, missed blocks by tight ends is not what the average fan is going to be looking at, but as you go
No.
down layers of complexity. So I like watching, and that's how I like being as a businessman. I like watching for opportunities, and then I'll strike. So the answer to your question literally is I don't know, but I'll be prepared for it when the opportunity comes.
And there's a lot of beauty in that. I don't know, but hey, I'm out there. I'm seeing what's going on. I'm watching the missed blocks by the Jets, by the Jets team. I love it.
I'm trying to find answers for why our run game is so abysmal right now, which, for Bills fans, they probably remember last year's first game, Brees chopped off a massive run.
You're
We were
right.
so much more effective last year. We should be better. We made an investment at left tackle. It's just not clicking, and hopefully it gets solved against your boys this weekend, this Monday night. It's going to be a very exciting game. The Jets have played well. It's funny. The Bills have always been coming into a Jets game hot, and we match up well, as you know, against Josh historically, and it's worked out for us. I think we've split the series last couple of years in a time where the Bills have been a much better football team. I'm so burnt by the Jets. I actually am disappointed you guys are coming in a little limpy, like not playing well. It makes me feel like more nervous. I feel like we're not, even though in all these years we figured it out, I feel like we're not going to figure it out this Monday. So I'm holding my breath. I'm hoping for the best. I'm sure you all on your side are as well, but I hope everybody gets through that game with no injuries and everybody keeps on their way.
A must-win game for both teams. Josh is 7-4 against the Jets in his career, but 5 of those matchups have been decided by 7 points or less. So you are so right. The Jets know how to keep it close against a really good quarterback in Josh Allen. We'll see how the game goes, but we want to give you a big thank you for coming on with us to talk about this matchup and what you've been up to. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Patty. Good luck.